My message to young guys is find somebody to die for. Go serve in your church. Go serve the least of these. And if you're married, don't serve the least of these before you serve your family.
Hello and welcome to the Stand Up Dude podcast. I'm Stewart White along with our host,
Tim Bisagno. Nice to see you guys again.
Hey guys, we got a great show for you today. In the studio with us is Peter Goodwin. Peter is owner, founder of Groove Life, but those are just some things he does and what he's done. Who he is as a person is so much more than that. So we want to welcome him to the show today, and we're going to dig into those things that he is and what he does and who his where his identity truly rests. Mm-hmm. So Peter, welcome to the show today, and really glad to have you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. It took us a minute, right?
Yeah, we tried.
Who are you again?
I'm Tim. I'm Tim Bisagno. I know there was a small digital delay there when he was speaking. Like, oh yeah. No, but I'm Tim, your friend.
We are friends.
We just live a mile apart. Well, a few miles.
You got to remind him that you're friends. We're friends, right?
He only lives a mile from the studio.
We're friends during hunting season.
Yeah.
We are much closer during hunting season.
So many friends.
Yes, sirree. So this is my buddy Peter Goodwin, great friends with his family and his kids, and we consider them family as well. And you'll hear it in a few minutes that Peter owns a company called Groove Life, and I believe that many of the guys out there have heard it if you've ever been on YouTube, and you're probably on there right now. So, Peter, welcome. A. B, I want to play him a commercial. I've never done this, but I think it's important because I love that you do your own gig at Groove Life. Here's Peter Goodwin. Let's see about that belt real quick.
My name's Peter Goodwin. I am the founder of Groove Life. I used to be an Alaskan adventure guide, and all the belts that I had never worked for me. So we came up with the Groove Belt. The Groove Belt stretches horizontally, so it's comfortable. You can hang heavy things off of it because it's rigid vertically. You adjust it one time, never again. And the buckle? Perfect. This belt is everything your mother wished you were as a child. The Groove Belt has a 94-year no BS warranty, so buy it with confidence and wear it forever. Get yours at groovelife.com or other participating retailers.
Awesome. I love that you do your own stuff. By the way, you also do a little ring here and there. A few Groove Life rings.
Do rings, wallets, and belts for men's accessories.
Very nice. Have you said that before?
A couple times.
Started with the ring.
Right.
But
Might be onto something.
Might be onto something on that ring. So just really, Peter, one of my greatest admirations for you is somehow, I'll have to admit, I'm just going to throw this in there. I love being your friend. I want to thank you for that. And one of the things that I love about you is that anytime you get to know somebody on a friend level, then you get to see where they are aware of their limitations. One of the things that you do, you've always been very free at sharing that because I'm your friend. And I've always admired how you surround yourself with people that help you with some of your limitations. And I think that's geniusness. And one of the things, there's hopefully many that I hope that the viewers get to hear today is you're at the end of the day, this Groove Life is just a means to an end. It's a business that you run really well, but I want them to get to know not just the man that you are, because I think that's important, being a podcast for men, but I want them to see a sample, an example of a man who has put up with all of the obstacles, put up with some challenges, and you've stuck to it. And you've done an amazing job of being a man. And lastly, I hope that the viewers understand that some of the messages, as I told you when we were getting started, some of the messages that they that young people especially feel that their life must look like in order to completely have it all together. And before I can move forward, I have to do this and this. One thing I've loved about you is you always just continue moving forward. You have a great gift of faith. I don't know if I've specifically said that to you, but I've always admired that. You just keep rolling forward. So I hope that the viewers are encouraged that that they too now can see an example of what God can do with a man that just gives him his complete self to God, trust God with the rest. And I hope that encourages deeply our viewers. So thank you for being here. Tell me, when you started Groove over in Alaska, right? I know you have a pretty big heart for Alaska. Tell me where that came from.
The heart or
the
how I
heart
started
for Alaska. Then let's hear about.
Yeah, well, I was born there.
Oh yeah.
And I was pretty much raised there seasonally my whole life. My parents or my family was in the tourism business, and so I was born there. We moved out when I was young, and then I started going back when I was 12 and living with my uncle and grandmother. My uncle was a big game guide, bush pilot, and then moved up there right out of high school. So I've been guiding in Alaska pretty much my whole adult life. Had a lodge there, and yeah, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want me to go?
No, well, I think that is a tremendous start. I know there was it was a place that you completely developed. Well, you didn't start it, but you developed it and turned it into quite a thing. And then I know that's where your heart, when you moved here, you were a little depressed. You told me more than once because your heart was still in Alaska. And I know that's where you really cut your teeth with your business. Tell us about when you started Groove Life, what that was like. That's now a multi-million-dollar organization, and you started it in your house, and it has to do with rubber rings. And by the way, I'm going to share this with anybody. If you ever see a rubber ring, here's how you know it's a Groove Life ring. You look and you see the little grooves on the inside. From what I understand, it has to do with helping keep the sweat off, I think, and help it air out. But even if that's true, that's what I believe always about your rings. But how did you start? Why did you start that of all things? And what kind of obstacles did you have to come?
Well, I'll back up a little bit and just say, I was in the tourism business my whole life, and mainly guiding for others. I've never been a money person where money really mattered outside of just purpose has been a big thing for me. Like, what is my purpose? Yeah. And so, I was just a guide forever, and seasonally, and I worked construction in the off season until I met my wife when I was 27. Got married when I was 27, met her when I was 26, and then we moved up there full time, and we had 4 kids in 5 years. Wouldn't recommend, but things happen.
You got it done.
Things happen.
You got it done.
Yeah, fertile.
Yeah.
So,
Myrtle.
So when we started having kids, I was faced with do I go get a real job? I don't have a college degree. So it was kind of like, do I get a real job as a construction manager or something, or do I raise money and try to build a lodge? So we ended up finding a few people to give us some money, and we built, that was my background. So, I knew how to, guide. So we built a lodge in remote Alaska. So you had to fly there. Many years we had an airplane. That's how we went and got our groceries. And,
awesome.
So we didn't have a car. We had 4-wheeler, and, we lived off grid basically. So, it was good. It was a good lifestyle. I'd say the lodge business is a lot like farming. You have really cool toys, lots of cool boats and airplanes, and
lots of expensive stuff.
Lots of expensive things, but you don't make a lot of money at the end of the day. And it's sort of feast and famine depending on the economy. And so our lodge specifically was, you bring your family up for an all-inclusive vacation. We'd fly around and see bears and go fishing and stuff like that. So, but in the off season, my wife challenged me. She said, "Hey, you don't seem to be doing a lot during the winter." And I was, I was like ice fishing and mountain climbing and stuff in the snow. And she said, "Why don't you? I'd like to go on vacation sometime." So she hates that I frame it like that. But we were looking for a little extra money and kids' education fund, and we had a bunch of little kids running around, or crawling around rather. So she said, "Our friends are were selling some stuff on Amazon. And I thought, man, that sounds terrible. What does that even mean? For the guys listening, there's two types of businesses. There's product and service. So you can either sell your time or you can sell a product. And I'd never understood how you could source a product. I didn't know anything about product. I was 35 at the time, so 9 years ago. And I just Googled my way to trying to understand this Amazon thing. And this was sort of, this 2015, 16. And found a product that a buddy of mine gave me some advice. He said, find a product that it's already selling in the marketplace, already has velocity. You don't have to train everybody what it is. And then basically make it better and sell it to a group of people that you have a voice with. So I was a hunting, fishing guide, and I knew that world. And so I made, groove ring. Well, there's already a couple rings on the market, but I put grooves on it so it made my finger not sweat. That was a problem with most rings. Silicone rings is what they are. And then I sold, basically did a Kickstarter, which is a place you can put your idea up online and see if people hate it or love it. So we raised $18,000 on that. And I kind of spoke that, if you're a hunting, fishing guy and you're an outdoorsman, you can't wear a metal ring. It'll rip your finger off. That's
and it clinks.
Clinks and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, we raised, and I thought that was a ton of money for not having to sell a trip. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's kind of happened.
No doubt.
So and it was pretty much up and to the right. So within a year, that business Groove had outgrown our lodge. And it's just been hair on fire ever since. And, I say that, the last couple of years have been tough with post-COVID, now tariffs and all this other, jazz, but nothing's easy in life. But, I think it's forced me to become somebody I wasn't in a good way, challenged me. So. Yeah.
With these new challenges have even made you do that even more?
What do you mean?
Is that what you're saying? It's forced you to become something that you weren't. Are you saying these new challenges in the last year or two?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime God gives you something else to steward, I think you're required to kind of do the work and figure out how to steward it well. Right. And so I definitely, you know me. You knew me before Groove. I was kind of a knuckle dragger. Sort of am still. But I think when God
Mouth
gives you
breather.
something to steward, whether it's a wife, it's children, it's work, whatever God gives you to steward, I think it behooves us to not assume we know what we're doing, to take a humble approach and be like, I suck at this, and seek wisdom from other people and other things. And so, I've become somebody different in a good way of just, if I was just still a guide, I'd know how to do that work, and that would have been fine too. I don't really care what I do. Yeah. But that's kind of how I view things. When God puts more on my plate, I'm like required to go figure it out.
Love that. Thank you. That's really cool. I know Stewart pretty well. I know myself pretty well, and I'm really connected with that he's doing that in me right now. And I know he's doing it in Stu.
Absolutely.
And it's really cool to hear you say, and I think it's good for the viewers to hear you say that there's always, you said, life can be hard, and there's always challenges. And it's good for people to hear that just because you've made it and you have a giant company, that you're not finished. It doesn't mean it's easy. You have more people that can maybe help you with things, but at the end of the day, Peter Goodwin's at this company, and you can feel the weight of that, I'm sure, especially during challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably just try to kind of relate, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and these guys get on. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm so successful and everything." I struggled with major depression from the time I was 18 until I was probably about the time I met my wife, 25, really? 26.
I was just going to bring that
debilitating.
I was hoping that was going to be okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll pull my pants down if you want.
Yeah, okay. Hey, I got a good belt I can give you if you need
44.
Go straight through the roof with the ratings right there.
Bingo.
Put that on the hook.
Yeah.
But just to relate, just try to, I put my pants one leg on at a time. I'm human. I struggle with imposter syndrome, and I'm not enough. I don't as much anymore. But in my 20s, man, 20s and even early 30s, really struggle with that deeply. And kind of one of the big revelations I had was I had this belief that God wanted me to fail, because I was if I was weak, he was made strong in my weakness. So every time that I would try new things. And again, I didn't have a college education, so I was sort of forced to be an entrepreneur because I couldn't find a job to fall back on. So I was always doing construction. I had a couple construction gigs, but anytime I would try something new and I would start to fail at it, which that is entrepreneurship. Like you just fail over and over and over and over and over and over.
Don't forget, I want to bring the failing back up because you really embrace failing, and that's rare.
No,
so
failing is like the key to success. So anyway, but you don't tie your identity with your failure. I always say you don't tie your identity to your idea. Your idea sucks, but it does get you to move. Mm-hmm. So whatever great idea you have, like be excited that you have one, and then know that the end goal, there is no really end goal, but there is, the journey is going to like evolve. And really smart people, entrepreneurs, I think entrepreneurs, the difference between entrepreneurs and normal people is they've just learned that failure is their greatest teacher, and they've tried to take feedback quickly. They don't go all in with all their chips. They go in enough to fail. They have 10 losses, but one win over here, and then they learn from that, and then they stack. And I'm 44. My employees made more money than I did until like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Wow. So, because we can go into like hiring smart people, but the point is that just failure is in marriage and kids really life is just one big schoolroom. And whatever reason we teach our kids that failure is bad, and we give them these stupid tests and all that. Don't get me started on education, but it's the opposite of how we should be approaching life. Like life is a bunch of risks and trade-offs and feedback loops to getting better, right? I mean, if anybody that's been married any short amount of time, just realize how stupid you were when you first got married. And, how wrong you were. And if you stayed married, you realize, man, I'm a much better person because I learned how to, anything in life that you're successful at. Yeah. I mean, you take any successful person in any area, and rarely are there, like I have several mentors that are, they're great business mentors, but they have disastrous families, So I'm like, not taking advice from your family, but like, okay, give me some business, vice versa. I have a lot of family people that don't have a nickel to their name. Not taking business advice from them, but man, give me everything you can on the family. Yeah. And so but they have, if you're successful, you have failed over and over and over and over and over, and you've gotten better. Yeah. So
thank you. I know you've made speeches on such things at big gatherings about when you've been invited as an entrepreneur to speak, and you really preach failure is an option because it's a great option because you learn from it and expecting it. I wanted to ask you something. So when we first started getting to know each other, and you guided me there in Alaska on that bow hunt, and you shared with me, this is pre groove rings, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. You shared with me numerous times that you suffered from some depression, and we had a fantastic time. You don't walk around just depressed per se, but you were honest about that. So for the young people, especially, I think, or even the 30 and the 40, that's still young per se, but to me, exactly. Yeah. For somebody that suffers from depression, I want to know how you went, not the strategies, but how did you, in essence, spiritually and mentally, even physically, I think it's mainly spiritually and mentally, go from depression to starting this business? I've always been intrigued with that. I've actually always wanted to ask you that.
Do you know the answer?
I don't believe I remember the answer if you've told me.
No, that wasn't like a shame thing. I don't.
You don't remember, Tim? I actually don't. I don't remember how you went from that to starting Groove Life, because I knew where you were, and that's a heavy load to go from this to starting something.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a. Hold on a second. So, it's probably not the answer that you're expecting, but I will tell you.
I don't know if I have an expectation in it.
Okay, so there's this. Okay, there it is. Okay, I'm gonna recommend a book in a second.
Okay.
So my my hang up was what I mentioned earlier, was that I thought God wanted me to fail, ultimately. I thought that was glorifying to him. I think a lot of Christians do this. I think this is why Christians suck in business mostly, is they think God, one, is going to do them favors because they're a Christian. I would argue that that's not theologically correct. I think there was no promise that you start your coffee shop and you fail and it's somehow God's fault. Or God took you through a depressing season. You know, like you just... whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think the God makes the rules in the marketplace, and people, an atheist can... I mean, if Chick-fil-A was owned by Muslims, I'd be crushing some Chick-fil-A still. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't buy it because
So
it's Christian. It's because it's good dang chicken, and the people are happy.
They're happy and they're good service, and they
practically. I guarantee you, atheists eat at Chick-fil-A, and they're like perfect. So the rules are set. I always say there are a set of rules. Some of them are in the Bible, clearly. And some of them are more just kind of in, like, the law of gravity is not in the Bible, but we would argue that it's probably a pretty real law. So there's laws on value exchange and in business, and if you follow those, it doesn't matter if you're green, yellow, black, white, you'll succeed or fail based off of that. So Christians think that they're going to get a heads up or a bonus because they at church they got prophesied over you're going to start a coffee shop, so they start one and they suck and they failed and then God failed. Or maybe, so I would do that. I would say like, oh man, God's led me into this thing. I got a word or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then it would start to get hard, and then I would self-sabotage because it's like, oh, this is it's God's going to teach me a lesson
so he can be glorified.
which is kind of a half truth, right? Like no full lies are really believable. It's always the half ones.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the constant feedback loop in my life. Unfortunately, I'd raised like $2 million to build this lodge in Alaska, and it was starting to it was starting to get hard. Like any good endeavor gets hard. Marriage hard, kids hard, business hard, everything's hard. And so I had all these debts. And so I started to kind of get in this loop. Like, maybe God didn't want me to do this. Maybe we should move on. I don't know if you noticed about other Christians. And I can say this because it was me. It was like, I never stuck with anything, right? Because I was just constantly like, oh, maybe God's got something else new for us, Again, this is no judgment on anybody. This is just my thought process. But when you have $2 million debt you got to pay, and you have 3 months to pay all the debts, because Alaska, that's the only time it's open for business. It's like June, July, and August, right?
Wow.
So I was like faced with, okay, is God really want me to go bankrupt? I mean, maybe he does, But
so he can be glorified.
But I've got 4 little babies and my wife, and she, like, how is this?
She wants to go on vacation.
Yeah.
She wants to get out of Alaska.
She was very supportive during this whole time. But anyway, I had a buddy invite me to a Tony Robbins conference. And
I didn't expect.
I know. This is out of left field. So I was so desperate because Christian, grew up in Christian school and all that, and had a real relationship with Christ from the time I was 19. I would say that's when you became Lord. Like you accept Christ when you're 6, and then you don't really know what's going on. And then about when you move out of your parents' house and you kind of
become your own.
Yeah. So that was 19 for me. A lot of it was around depression. I will say that depression was the greatest gift God ever gave me. I wouldn't wish it on my enemy, but it did formulate a serious foundation of dependence on Him. Because there was some dark times, people had to come get the guns out of the house, kind of dark times. Yeah. Okay. And so, anyway,
it's rough.
I was at a very low point, and my buddy was like, dude, come to Tony Robbins with me. I'm like, that guy, he's not even a Christian. Jesus is the answer, which he is.
Yes.
But again, like, gravity is real. Yeah. If somebody's like, rules. Hey, stop jumping off the house, I'm like, it's not in the Bible, He's like, gravity's real. So he was like, coming to Tony Robbins, I think it'd really help you. And I saw that it kind of helped him in his business anyway. And so I went, and it was a lot of hoorah and jumping up and down and walking on coals and all that. And it was good. It's fun. It was exciting. It's like a super duper Pentecostal, experience without Jesus. Oh my gosh.
Talk about him.
Hardcore. Exciting. And then, but at the end, he did this thing called the Dickens process, which you can look it up. And it's basically trying to identify what are the limiting beliefs that you have in your life. And you could be, it was crazy. I sat next to this gay guy and we were like workshopping it together because they were like, just turn your left and right. And so he's always wanted to start a coffee shop, but he thought he was too stupid. Yeah, but he has like a PhD in something. He was crazy. Wow. But Tony said that. He said, like, some people say, my limiting belief is I'm too fat. Well, somebody else could be I'm too thin. Somebody says, I'm too smart. I'm too dumb. He's like, literally, we can make up limiting beliefs about anything. I mean, you can say, I'm too rich. I'm too poor. Like, it's crazy. Humans love to do this so that you can stay in this, your brain's getting something from it. But anyway, he took you through this process of like, what is your limiting belief? And I found, like over 2 hours, I was like journaling and talking to this gay guy about and he was talking to me. It was hilarious. And I say the gay guy because it wasn't like this spiritual connection or alignment, but we were just both like in this struggle of like a limiting belief. We're desperate.
Yeah, man.
Like what's yours? What's mine? It was very humane, like the most almost awesome church experience I ever had with just strangers. It was crazy because we were all just like desperate. But he said, so anyway, through this process, it was like my limiting belief was I believe God wanted me to fail. And I would never have said that to, if you came to me and said, do you think God wants you to fail? Of course not.
No, that's ridiculous.
God, we're more than overcomers. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but that was it. It was subconscious. Yeah. So your subconscious brain drives like a lot of what you believe and do. Mainly what you do. And so anyway, so then he takes you this process where he kind of rewires your brain. He associates pain. So it's pain and pleasure. Your brain goes toward pleasure. That's why you get addicted to certain things. But if you associate enough pain with that same action, you'll actually like your brain will avoid it. And one analogy, and I know we're going deep down the rabbit hole, but he said, have you ever thought of a food that you like love, like you think about it and your mouth would start watering? And that was pepperoni pizza for me when I was young. I love some pepperoni pizza. And he's like, but then you got sick on that food. He was like, how hard was it for you to say no to that food the next time? I ate a whole pepperoni pizza when I was 15. I still remember it. I vomited my guts out. And I can't stand pepperoni pizza till today. Like,
no kidding.
I still don't like it. It's like, ugh. Kids eat it. I'm like, ugh, take the pepperoni off. But that's how fast your brain can switch from I want that more than anything to I can't stand that. I don't want it anymore. So that's kind of what he does with this limiting belief. He kind of takes you through this process. I've never been able to explain that to people very well where they kind of get it until I read this book recently called Mindset. Okay. It's the greatest book outside of the Bible I think I've ever read. It's Carol S. Dweck, and she wrote it like in the 90s. Mindset.
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. And it's a game changer. So maybe Dweck. DWECK. Yeah. But maybe I put it in the show notes or something. But it's a game changer. So that was kind of I started Groove the next month. So I went in February and I started Groove in March.
Wow. So that was really a catalyst, right?
Huge catalyst. Because that's allowed me to realize that God does want me to be successful. He does. And it's mainly around my family. So I kind of got to a point where I don't think he's like, again, I don't think he does any favors for Christians because we're Christians. He already did that. He died. You know what I mean? That's the favor. But we have to play within the sandbox of value exchanging. But it allowed me to like detach my identity from any obstacles I was facing. Because I always used to say, oh, well, I can't suck. It was reverse pride. It was like anytime that I faced an obstacle, instead of being like, I suck, I don't know what I'm doing, I need help. Yeah. It was like, really what I was saying was God's doing this to me. Yeah. It can't be me. Yeah. Isn't that weird? It's so weird. We're so weird as humans. Yeah. So it was just it was pride. I couldn't admit to myself that I sucked at whatever, right? My marriage is not doing good. I couldn't be like, oh, it's my fault. I'm responsible. I'm the husband. Mm-hmm. It was like, we just do this. I think it's self-protectionism. So anyway, it's really interesting. But it totally reframed everything for me. And then when you get rid of those limiting beliefs, whatever they are, it's like being born again. It's just a game changer.
That's so amazing. I've been through some stuff recently where that same thing was being addressed. And I would have said the same thing as you. I thought, no. I would never have thought this or thought that or felt this way about this person in my life. And then I'm like, in this process, it was a retreat we went to a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah, True North.
A guest we're having on in the future here.
Yep, Nathaniel.
But it hit me so hard that I was like, wow, I really am holding on to some crap here that I have not been able to deal with because I didn't have the courage to verbalize.
Right.
And then I felt like the moment I did, it was like, wow, this burden is lifted. There's such a tremendous amount of clarity that you get. Like you went and you start a company and instead of going in like, well, this is going to fail eventually, I'm just going to, it's going to fall apart. Yeah.
Just a pilgrim passing through.
I don't think that's unique to you or me or any, I think it's most men, probably most people, most women too, there is something in there that there's this limiting thing that you go, well, I would do that, but here's X, Y, and Z why I can't.
Right.
Often it's not to blame somebody, but often it's a message you've received it as a kid or something. You know, well, you're not good at that because you're shy. You're not good at that because you're not very bright. You know, whatever. And even well-meaning religious people can be like, hey, you're not good at that because God wanted you to suck at that. You know,
Right.
It's like, well, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like, why would he want me to? Sure, I can bring him glory throughout any experience, but if I'm just sitting there going, okay, what am I going to suck at today, God? Like, this doesn't really seem very effective.
Well, one thing I talk to guys about a lot, I just talked to a guy about it yesterday, is like just a couple of types of suffering. Like Jesus said, we are going to suffer. We're in this world. You will have suffering. But there's like self-induced suffering, just and that could be like drugs or adultery or something stupid. But also it can be ignorance.
Yeah.
Right? You're just not going to grow. And then there's just, stuff happens, you're persecuted, or your child goes off the, you are going to have suffering. Your body's going to eventually fail. You're going to pull a hamstring at a baseball game.
Pull a hamstring.
You are going to suffer, but like, let's limit the stupid suffering.
Right.
Based off of,
I
ignorance
think
and
you
pride.
have an entire book of the Bible about wisdom. Proverbs is
right.
Grow in wisdom so you don't act like a fool. The fool suffers unnecessarily, But if we can grow in wisdom, it's a way to prevent. It's like you said earlier, don't jump off the roof. Like, that should be obvious. Gravity hurts.
Right.
It's true no matter what. There's the guy who's like, I was told not to jump off the roof and I did it anyway. And then there's the guy who's like, I just had no idea that was a bad idea.
You're right.
I had friends like that growing up. I'd be like, bro, I had a buddy, he broke one collarbone and then the next year broke the same collarbone, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And had shoulder issues the rest of his life.
My gosh.
I'm like, bro, I could have told you, like, don't do that. Don't jump out of the, whatever he did on a spike.
And he could be like, well, God wanted me to suffer.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're an idiot.
Yeah. I think you just made a bad choice.
Right.
So if it wasn't for the limited belief that you are meant to suffer, you are meant to fail, so God can get the glory somehow through that. If it wasn't that, where did you go from the realization that, oh dang, it's written right in front of me that this limited belief has been controlling my life? What did you do with that information? My dad used to call it, when he would preach, he would say, so much so the time we get information, and preachers are very guilty of this, and then they say, let's close our eyes and pray. And he would always say, well, what's the grand so what?
Yeah.
So what is the grand so what for you after you found out this information?
Yeah, I would say that, well, one, we went through the process of tying pain to that thought. So I'll kind of tell you, this is really, really awesome, actually. Okay. So he kind of goes through this meditation mind program, mind process. It's nothing crazy. It's just you actually project what your life's going to look like if you continue to think like this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so we did a 1 year, we did a 6 month, a 1 year.
If you continue to go with the limited belief.
Yeah, so he has like the lights down. He's just kind of been through a meditation process where people are just, I did one on a spiritual retreat a couple weeks ago, and it was just like, they were doing it in a positive way of like, imagine you sitting around the table when you're 70 and how many children you have around you and your grandchildren. And you sit there and you think, about the future, and you're like, what do I want for my family? It's a really beautiful exercise. But he did. Tin Man? No. Okay. No, I know those guys. But anyway, this is similar. It was like, okay, close your eyes, music's playing. In 1 year, if you don't stop, what's your wife? Are you going to still have the same arguments? What are you going to be fighting about? What about your kids when they run up to you? What are you going to do? Look in their eyes. Look in their eyes. You're just kind of like, man, by the year 20, and he said, look, the brain's super smart, but it's also kind of, you can kind of tell it what you want. Yeah. And you can stir up emotion. Yeah. So he's like, I want you to think worst case scenario. Don't be like, oh, it'll probably be okay. He's like, no, think like, no, it's terrible.
No, it's terrible.
You're like, so by year 20, this is the scenario I had in my mind. It's hilarious. But I'm literally, so my son was maybe 3 at this time. And just, I didn't feel like I was worthy to be his dad. Like I didn't have anything to offer him. Just
Hi, William.
Total lies.
Love you, buddy. He's a great son.
Yeah, just
great
total
man.
lies. He's a good man.
Great young man.
He's 13 now.
13.
So, but just feeling inadequate as a father and a provider, all the things I'm supposed to do, as a man. And so he was like, so you're 20, I'm in a mobile home. This is my worst case scenario. Okay. I'm in a mobile home, and I have no pants on. I had underwear, tighty whities, and a wife beater.
Nice.
And I'm like, my girlfriend's
Italian
there.
dinner
My
jacket.
girlfriend's there. And somebody pulls up in the drive in a gray Toyota Camry, and it was William, and he was at college, and he was bringing his girlfriend over to show, like, to introduce. And I came out, and I'd been drinking.
Brutal.
And because I tended to drink when I got depressed.
Yeah.
And so I came out, and this is all in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And I came out, and I saw him. He saw me, and he got back in the car with his girlfriend and left. And I just was wailing.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's what's going to happen to me if I don't stop thinking this. You're like, that's what's going to happen. And dude, they turned the lights back on, and I was like, snot-nosed. And
so good.
I tell you, that was a big change for me. But over the next year, whenever those thoughts of you're a loser, you're an effing loser would come in my mind when things would get hard, I would get up and I would just be like, I'm not a loser. I'm a son of the Most High God. I had this kind of script, and I would just say it loud to myself.
Out loud.
Out loud.
Yeah.
Out loud. And that pretty much, there's been hard times since, but if you think that God is for you, things get a little bit easier.
Yeah. It does change the way you think, right?
Yeah.
It's only right there in Romans 8.
And I knew God didn't want me to fail as a father. I knew that.
Yeah.
At business, I was like, TBD. I knew God didn't want me to fail as a father, and that's where I was headed. So that's why it was a little easier for me to believe the opposite of that lie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't expect to go there. But
That's
I
great.
love that.
The thing that you read to yourself, where can we find this? Is it something that you wrote?
Yeah,
personally?
I kind of wrote it off. It was just a 3x5 card I had on my computer. It was just, it was just a bunch of verses about identity.
About identity.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing. That's what we talk about so much on this show is your identity. And there's men, young, old, who watch and listen, and everybody has an identity. Everybody has a story they're telling themselves and a message they are believing. And if it's not tied to the truth, it is tied to a lie. There is no option B, option C or something, And your thing, it's ultimately God used that to bring your identity back to the truth of who you are in Christ, of who you are as a son, of more than a conqueror, all that kind of stuff, but not in a just throw the verse at it and walk away. You had this amazing transformation, and God even used something where many Christians will go, oh my gosh, you can't talk about Tony Robbins, right? You kind of alluded to that earlier, but yet God used that to point you into the direction of what is really true of you. And that's where we come back to all the time. Your identity is you were made for more. You were made to know your creator. And if you know that, there's one pastor I love. He always puts it, you need to know what is true before you know what to do. And if you don't know who you are, you won't know what to do. You'll be off, doing whatever, trying to figure it out. I think we have not just a generations of people who have been doing that for decades. I'm going to figure this out on my own. And then they destroy their families, destroy their lives. They end up wearing wife beaters and having, your imagined scenario is their reality, many of them. And it doesn't have to be that way, but our belief is that's who we are. That's all I'll ever be. And that's, maybe even that's who God wants me to be, which is so messed up.
Super messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the identity thing, if we can speak about that for a second, I think identity is such a big deal currently, because men have been stripped of all identity. So I think there's 3 types of identity that I've identified that never change. So there's your spiritual identity, whose you are. Yeah. So you're either a son of, you're one of those, son of God, or a follower of. If you're not a son of God, then you're probably on the enemy side unknowingly. That's why Christ came to reconcile you back to God. But there's the familial side, which in the West we've completely thrown out family.
Yeah.
So those two things don't change, right? So you are if you're a Christian, you're a child of God, and you're a son of or daughter of your family. But there's no real, you can legally change your last name, but you can't change your blood. Yeah. Your blood's flowing. Yeah. So, and then there's kind of our biological identity. All of those are under attack in our current, and so even if you don't want to become a transgender, but manhood has become under attack to such a degree that men don't even know or are ashamed of their masculinity. But yeah, identity is a big deal, a big deal. And I would argue that because it's super disoriented right now, because one, we don't even know what manhood is. We don't know what masculinity is. the things we typically have been celebrated for, which is basically strength and risk taking, providing, protecting for others. The government takes care of our women, and our women provide potentially better than we do.
Yeah.
And then the familiar thing, we have no identity inside of family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your last name mean? Like, if you asked, what does the white name mean?
Yeah.
Like, with your kids, they'd be like, I don't know. I mean, maybe your kids are different, but most Western kids don't know anything, and they're just trying to live their own, like, get out of the house and I'll start my own life. And then a lot of people don't have any spiritual identity.
Even in movies, you see the thing is like, well, a family is anything you make it. A family is your group of friends. They try and downplay the idea of like a nuclear family.
Right.
And I know for some people, their family sucks, and they're like, well, I don't want anything to do with my family.
Right.
They're probably the ones fighting that identity. But still, like, the attack on family itself. I always play this little like mind exercise. If I were Satan, what would I want to attack?
Yeah.
And it would be, well, if you're a Christian, I want you to doubt your identity is secure in Christ. If you have family, I want you to doubt it, or I want to destroy it in some way. And then if you are a man or a woman, I want you to, doubt your gender identity. Those things would be enough to unravel any society and culture and anything. And that's what we're seeing today.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
Literally, it attacks the most basic question, male or female. I mean, that was not a question ever until, I don't know, the last 10 years practically. And what an odd thing to go towards, to dismantle so many other pieces. The go for the most absurd question of asking, are you male or female? It's like nobody would have had to have that discussion.
I think it's a natural progression toward when your society worships individualism over everything. So what's the greatest individualistic expression is to choose my gender. So it's actually a natural progression of individualistic idolatry.
To declare in not just independence, but independence from
all restraint,
and restraint,
all
God.
restraint.
Yeah.
It is. It's really interesting. That's the appeal of it.
Yeah,
is that it's like
it promises freedom.
I am God. I can even to the point of nobody can tell me even who my gender is. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Same lie.
It's the same lie, just repackaged.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Be like God.
Devil's not very creative, actually.
Yeah, we're just stupid.
We're just dumb. We're great. He's great at marketing, though.
I want to close with a question in a moment, but for the men that have heard part of your story, and I'm sure if they're still with us, they have identified with loss, with suffering, with purpose, with vision, and I want to end with a question. But would you tell us? If you had a moment, if you literally, somebody gave Peter 2 minutes to say what is the most important thing that would allow you to find purpose, find your identity, find the answer to that thing that's in you that I stand on the hill with, and that is that I believe men in the bottom of their heart know that they're created for more, and that when they don't know what to do with that, their soul sort of begins to dismantle. And so what we've done here is started with the putting before them the idea that this idea that you're built for more is a beautiful thing. And so for the young man that knows that they are built for more and doesn't know what to do about that at this point, regarding purpose and identity and things that we've mentioned, what would you tell them to go to? What can they start with when this podcast finishes?
I would say there's two cohorts to talk to here. If you're not a Christian, you haven't given your life to Christ, you haven't been reconciled to God through Christ's gift. I would say that's the first step. Is like, and I always tell this to young guys if they're not Christians, just go. Why don't you just go ask God? Like, well, I don't believe He's real. Well, could He be real? So what's the downside to like just crying out and be like, if you're real, show me you're real, and give me the faith to believe. Okay, so that's you really, you know, I could give lots of business advice on how to be this and be that, but if your spiritual identity is not shored up, you really life's gonna be quite empty.
Yeah,
you're gonna be naturally selfish. For the Christian, for the young guys, I tell them, so men, the greatest movies that we love are men that sacrifice their lives for a greater purpose. So all great movies, the hero sacrificing his time, his money, his life, Braveheart, whatever, right, for others. And you're just like, man, I'm inspired by that. That is Christ's call to what a man is. A man is created to die. Specifically, it talks about in Ephesians, you know, dying for your wife. If you're married, if you're not married, get married. You're not designed to. So this is probably gonna be unpopular. No offense to the young guy behind the mic over there, but like you know, I think our culture says, hey, you are created with a great purpose, and God's got a great plan for you, and you're created special, and your mom's definitely told you that, and you probably went and tried out on American Idol and figured out you weren't, but you're not that special, and you're not that great at all. That message is super self-serving. It's individualistic minded. It's, you know, I struggled as in my 20s with purpose so deeply because I didn't have anybody to die for. I just thought, I haven't found my purpose yet. I hadn't found my meaning in life and everything. It's like if you read the scriptures, the greatest men sacrifice themselves. So if you're not a believer, figure out who you need to die for. Maybe that's a ministry. Maybe that's young kids in Africa. Maybe that's something. If you've got a girlfriend or you're like, move the thing along and get married, and when I got married and had children, it was like the light bulb of purpose took off. I was like, I didn't wake up in my every day thinking about myself. I couldn't, right? And because by force, and that's why the covenant of marriage is so strong, right? Like you can't it's not like a girlfriend. You can just ditch her when you're tired of her. And so my message to young guys is, find somebody to die for. Go serve. Go serve in your church. Go serve the least of these, and you will have deep, deep purpose in your life. And if you're married, don't serve the least of these before you serve your family. People do that. They get, you know, they get it backwards, man. Your family is your greatest ministry, the greatest ROI you'll ever have, ever. And serve them, and then teach them to serve others. But as Christians, we are foreigners in a foreign land. We are ambassadors for Christ. We are not citizens of this earth. If God gives you things to steward, they are not yours. Your children are not yours. Your wife's not yours. Your money's not yours. We had died. We died with Christ. We've been raised with Him to live in a new life. And that is not a life of acquisition and, finding my purpose in life and all that. There are pleasures in life for sure, but a great man is one that dies for the people God's given him to die for. And that's what stewardship is. It's like laying your life down so others can live. So that's
so good. Awesome. So powerful, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
I didn't get married till I was 33 years old. Didn't get sober till I was 27. The day I got sober, or within a month or two, I felt like this idea of that we're created for more. Like when I wasn't suffocating them with drugs and alcohol, with that feeling and that power that God had put in there, then I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't know who to die for, didn't know what to die for. I loved Jesus, but I still had no idea what that really looked like in Tim's life at 28 years old. 28, college graduate, went to seminary. Completely no idea what to do with my life. And all my other friends seemed to know. Man, that killed me. And brother, when you said about serving, that's when it turned on for me. I joined an organization called Youth with a Mission. I was not a youth, but I was able to serve along with other people similarly aged, who have similar age, all have the purpose of basically dying to yourself. That was, I believe, the first start for me. I mean, we slept on the floor more than we slept in beds for 5 or 6 years. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Ate more peanut butter than any other food times 5. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So serving others and serving Jesus, no matter what that looked like, and even doing the little stuff for me, like such as we started a band. We were touring nightclubs all across Europe, and then we relocated back to America. And I didn't know what to do with myself because the churches wanted to play in their youth group. And I'm like, man, bro, I'm sorry, that's not what we're sorry. We'll do it, but dude, we just came from Poland. They spit at us and they threw beer bottles at chain link fence and broke because we played beyond the chain link fence because that was cool to get spit at and throw bottles. That means they respected you. We came from that, and you want me to play in the basement of, which I'll do, but we only did 4 or 5 of them, and all that to say, well, then what are we going to do? So we got an invitation to play in prisons. I'm like, let's go. We're playing in prisons. And so to serve, to speak at the youth group of 14 people instead of the 400. And I noticed in my life that when I took those little service, and I really honestly didn't say no. More people should have called because I wasn't going to say no. If you needed some help, call us. But when I served is when I genuinely, I make no money. I get no kickback in any way other than to hopefully save a lot of people a lot of time. But to serve God in the small things, he will bless you, and he sees you. And even if he doesn't, even if you don't think that he does, because of your limited thinking, he does. And he does amazing things from this gig in prison. This gig in prison, played for juvenile delinquents. They were 14 to 17. They had done they had done the murders and the rapes. I shared Jesus with them. Had an invitation that somebody else that was doing a puppet show right beside us after we put on a huge show invites us to come on their TV show to reach kids. We're like, cool, we'll do that. Let's go. When we show up, and the owner of the TV station loved to see the phone lines light up. But when we said, if you'd like to receive Jesus, then pray with me right now. We did it. And that turned into a television show that we began that day, in essence, in 160 countries, translated into 11 languages without an inch of TV experience. It started by playing that little juvenile delinquent center and putting on a great show, because that's what we're called. We were called to do things with excellence. Yeah. And not because we're getting paid, we can get paid a dime, because it cost us money, because we're serving and we're representing the King. We're going to go in there and rock their faces off, and we're going to tell them about Jesus. And that's where it started. And 22 years later, we're still doing television, and it turns into podcasts and getting to hang out with these beautiful men that I so love and respect. But serving, it could be your very, for me, it was my key to knowing what I was dying for, what I was dying to see live. And so Peter, you know, I love the way that you broke it down. It was a great breakdown when I asked what would be the things that you tell them about where to focus your life and find your purpose. And you said, well, it's really two things. And I love what you said. You really expounded on the young people and the men as well that know Jesus, but the ones that don't, we like to start with what we like to stand for is being the man that you're created to be, and we like to start with make sure that you know who your Creator is, so you can do that. And so I love that you in essence broke that down by saying that you start with Jesus. So. Hey, you show somebody how to start with Jesus here. Yeah, if you would do that, please, and then we'll close.
Yeah. So, Lord, speak through me here. But you know, if you're on the fence on if God's real or not, I would just say, just ask Him. that's a great place to start. If you do know that God is real and you're not quite sure about this Jesus thing, I would say find somebody that can share the gospel with you. But basically, the gospel is like we are separated from God because of sin. Basically, sin is this target they used, and it was a target metaphor for missing the mark. But when Christ came, he basically was the sacrifice for all that sin. So there's a lot sharing the gospel is a big deal, but and maybe you guys do a better job some other time, but it's long and kind of something to understand. But I would just pray that God would reveal His truth to you, and that you would be open to the fruit in these men's lives, and maybe take the testimony that I'm a hunting guide. I'm the manliest man you could find, yet I am God's servant for the rest of my life, and willing to give up all of that to serve my wife and children in Middle Tennessee, and do, God's allowed us to do ministry all over the world for the least of these, and I wouldn't trade that for anything, for the manliest stuff that you could do, or all the money. So the testimony and the fruit of people's lives that you could probably look at in your own life of who are these Christians? What, of course there's the ones that are what they say is not what they do, but there are probably some in your life that have that fruit. And I'd say, look at them and ask them about it. But Jesus is definitely the way, the Spirit that He gives us after we come to Christ guides us. He is the great guidance. And I love it. Be reconciled to God. So, read Romans. I would say for Christians, one thing that's been transformative for me, for young men or men in general, is that I had a mentor challenge me probably just in this last year. He's like, hey, how often are you in the Word? And I was like, I'm like 2 or 3 days a week. I kind of get in it, and he's like, he's 60 years old, and in a non-shameful way, but he was like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean what I mean? Like, that's pretty good, right? He's like, dude, you don't understand. He's like, you are a son of the King, and you have been given much to steward, right? Mm-hmm. And mainly your family. So this is the most important thing you can do today and every day, is to get it at the feet of the Father in Christ's name and ask Him for help. Ask Him for guidance, to seek His will in your life through reading the Bible and praying. He's like, that is more important than your marriage, is important than your parenting, is way more important than your stupid business. So he said. Yeah. and man, I will tell you, a good, swift spiritual kick in the balls is what men need. So I challenge you men out there, like, take the Bible seriously. I have been, so I changed my diet because I was eating so much sugar and I couldn't get up in the morning. So I changed my diet, and now I get up really early and read the Bible. And I've been doing it probably 3 or 4 months now, like consistently. That's awesome. Really good. And it's absolutely changed just my relationship with God in such a transformative way. I don't know, man. I read the Bible. I pray. I have this kind of like outline. I go through my calendar and I pray over my calendar. Like what and who, and then I ask God, do you want me to add anybody to the calendar? Who do I need to talk to today? Yeah. And just that me humbly seeking Him, because I'm just like anybody else. I can get a commission from, I feel like God's told us to do this or God's told us to do that. Man, I will take that and be like, thanks God, come out of here, Thanks. And it's just that rhythm of spiritual dependence has been nice. So so if you're a Christian man, you're not taking the Bible seriously and you're struggling, like, seek God in His Word. The ROI on that is, I can't say it enough. I'm 44 and I feel like I'm such an idiot that I haven't done it. And what's cool? What? I've been wanting my wife to be like in the Word with me. Like, we're supposed to be spiritual leaders of our homes, and hell, I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, how do I disciple my kids and my wife? Like, she's way more spiritual than I am, and I'm, I do stupid stuff, and she knows about it. And man, I would tell you one thing. The kind of those frivolous little sins that I was kind of doing, having a little bit too much to drink, or every now and then put a dip in or something. Like, all those things kind of fell away when I got really serious in the last 4 or 5 months. It was crazy. Is that all my kids see me in the Word every morning, and they are all reading their Bibles. Wow. Even my 6-year-old, every day they're so excited to like come down with me. And my wife started getting up with me early, and I haven't been able to ever get her to do that. So it's just cool. Instead of me like guilting her, like, I want to get up in the Word. Totally. I just started doing it. And so just seeing that fruit,
You
that's just a
led,
little,
literally.
but again, I'm 44. If you could learn this when you're 28, when you're, do it. Because you'll save so much.
The compound effect on that's going to be huge.
Yes.
Anyway, I wish you would have told me this earlier.
Where were you?
How old are you?
I should have. When I traveled with the band, we spent a lot of time on vans and crappy buses and unair conditioned trains and stuff like that. And bro, I read the Bible a lot. I read the 1 year Bible 4, 5, 6 years in a row. Each year, different translations. So I had to own it. And I was not married at the time. And first of all, I apologize for not telling you sooner. Really, I do. Number two, if you're single, I know you got a lot going on. You have a lot of opportunities out there begging for your time. Well, that's a really kind way of saying there's a ton of distractions out there. And for you to choose to spend time in the Word, like he said, he's got 4 kids, three sweet little girls and a young man and a wife and a huge business. And he's got other organizations that he's helping with. And I want to end with that here in a moment. My point is you just heard him say, just in the last 4 months, he's discovered the beautiful and the richness of spending time with Jesus. So you have an opportunity to do that, especially right now in your life. I know you're busy. I got a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old son. They're as busy as I've seen. But they also spend the time with Jesus. So both of them, which is so beautiful. You guys, I want to end with this. Peter just mentioned about the gospel and meeting Jesus. I want to say a simple prayer with you. If you wanted to ask Jesus to step out of heaven and out of the ethereal and into your life and become the Lord, you know what the Lord means? It means boss. He's the boss. He's not just the manager. He's the boss of your life. And you put yourself under his rulership and his domain and his leadership. And you begin to follow him with your decisions. And he sends us his Holy Spirit as it indwells inside you. It guides you. It leads you. It'll change your thoughts. It'll change your words. It'll change your actions. It'll even change the time you get up in the morning. It's crazy the way you handle people, the way that those little innuendos and the way that you make your decisions in business or personal. He begins to change all of that by his power of his Holy Spirit. But we get that gift when we ask him to step out of heaven and into our life. It's really simple. As Peter mentioned, there's sin. It separates us. You can say, "Dear Jesus, I'm a sinner and I need you. I love you. I can't do it without you." And here's his favorite words. I need you. So say, I need you, Jesus. You guys, he just came into your heart if you said that. He will wash away your sins. He'll give you new life. He'll fill you with the Holy Spirit, with newness of life. So we want to help you grow in that newness of life. We're not just sending you down the road and say, attaboy. If you just prayed with us, we have some great tools to offer you. It's at standupdude.com/stand. So go there now and let us help you and help you to now look more like Jesus, not just be with Jesus on the daily. So we love you and you've made the best decision of your life. Get in God's word. Find yourself a community. We are going to, by the time you may view this, maybe we're still developing it a bit at this point, but we're developing a great community, and we want you to be a part of that with us. We're going to have get-togethers. We're going to have live YouTubes. We're going to do all kinds of great stuff. So in the meantime, get on standupdude.com/stand. So we love you and thank you for being here. Hey, Peter, I know that for the men out there that have sons. I know you're doing something in Alaska. Is it something that somebody can sign up for? Mm-hmm. Okay, what is that?
So we run a father-son discipleship camp in Alaska. Mm. So we have a place up there, and we run that during the summers. It's called the Quarry Project, Quarry, and that's after Isaiah 51. Mm. Oh, cool. Which is look to the rock that you've been cut in the quarry from which you've been dug. Look to Abraham and Sarah, basically as your past family. So look at your spiritual identity and your physical identity. Your familial identity. So we equip dads in that transformative time from 12 to 15 with a great experience in Alaska. They come up and do just,
dads that have sons from 12 to 15.
Correct. Yeah.
They come to Alaska.
12 to 16. We'll fit in a 16-year-old. So they'll come to Alaska for the week. We call it the kickoff. So it's just this unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime experience. We have a private island in a national park. So nice. It's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
Off grid, you fly in about 150 miles, land at the lodge there. And we do a bunch of firsts. The boys learn how to run chainsaws, backup trailers, drive boats, how to fly fish, how to catch fish, kill it, cook it. They sleep out with their son. They do father-son blessing at the end. Mm-hmm. And then, so you come with other guys that preferably from your church, and their sons, and then we send you home we partner with John Tyson for the curriculum. So it's Primal Path is the father-son curriculum. So you send you home with a 1-year curriculum.
That's awesome.
And that's my passion project. I mean, Groove is just the thing I steward to pay for these other things,
right?
To serve other people. But my passion is to help dads become the spiritual leaders in their homes. And the son is sort of the bait that we get them there with, because every dad wants their son to be better than them, Oh, yeah. And so that's our ministry. So we run from June through middle of August every year. We have about 10 weeks we run.
Get it done in those 10 weeks, right?
The quarryproject.com.
The Quarry Project.
Or just quarryproject.com. You could
quarryproject.com.
Yeah.
Check
it out.
Thank you, Peter. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sending you my calendar. Okay, I got some openings during those times.
Your sons are too old.
I know, but I want to help.
It's gonna
help. Yeah.
It's gonna be like, look younger, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Stand Up Dude. We hope it blessed you. Leave a message in the comments, like we said. Follow us on all our socials. Check out Groove Life and check out the Quarry that we mentioned earlier. And we are looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. We're going to have Nathaniel Blackburn, and that is going to be special, so you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, it's a good one.